Gotta see if we're live here or not. Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything on my end for the stream, but I'm seeing comments on here. I don't know if I should refresh it or not. That might screw everything up. Let's see here. Stream health, no data. Everything's working on. I'm watching the stream on my phone. All right, well, this will have to work. All right, so, oil filter. Hey, Trey. Hey, Miss Sue. Big Boy 85. I ain't sure who that is, but what's happening? What's up, Matt? Hey, Blake. Let me check comments here. All right, so before we go any further, see, I can't see anything in OBS. Oh, wait. There it is. Okay. I got to go through OBS to watch the damn thing. Okay. All right. So we've got a little area out here south of Bermuda. It's a fish storm. Nothing to worry about. All right. Meanwhile, closer to home, you see what's happening over here in the northeast Texas, southern Oklahoma, and Arkansas, Mississippi. Tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings. Like Texarkana, tornado warning area. Oxford, what is that? Ole Miss up there? I bet batten down the hatches. That's a tornado and severe thunderstorm warning. It's actually impacting that area right now up there. So I'm going to turn satellite imagery off here because what I want to do is get straight to the thing here. I'm going to bring up something. Let me go to the graphics here and we're going to bring this up here with Windows Photo Viewer. Alright, OBS. Alright, so window capture, let's see. Floor. Nope, it's not what I want. I want picture. There we go. Alrighty, so most of you are familiar with this, alright? I don't know why this is squeezing this down, but let's slide this down here. So what's changed here, looks like we got a delay here. Anyhow, what's changed with the new graphics coming out from the National Hurricane Center this season is you see the cone of error, alright? What you don't see, which is optional, you can, when you go to their website and you click on these graphics, it'll give you the option to put that line in there. But a lot of people focus on that line, that projected path or forecast path, and say, oh, well, it's not going to hit us. Well, that's been a lot of confusion. The same with the cone of error. All right. So as we zoom in here, you look at the cone and you see major, major, that's MM, that's major hurricane, storm is tropical storm, D is depression. And then the open D up here is remnant low. But outside of the cone of error, you see the red and the blues and the yellows. All right. So what this is given that people get confused and you say, I'm not in the cone of error, I ain't got nothing to worry about. That's mistake number one, especially when you're over here on the east side of this thing. Even on the western flank, you can still get nailed if you're close to the center, period. Those of us who've been down here most of our lives, we know that. We know the drill. But for you new folks down here, understand that when you see this cone of error and you see someone put that line in for the projected path, don't focus on that. The only thing you need to focus on is the cone of error, and if you're on in close to that cone of error on its west flank, and you can be several hundred miles away on the east side and still get major impacts. All right. Hurricanes vary and tropical storms vary in size, and just because it's a high-end or mid-range tropical storm or a low-end category 1 hurricane, don't take for granted that everything's going to be fine, because coastal areas are impacted not just by the wind speeds, but by how slow these things move and how big they may be. And I'm going to bring you back over to Weather Studio for a minute, because we're going to draw on something hypothetical here. Right, let's clear all this junk off here, because we don't need this right now over here, all these watches warnings. That doesn't affect us. Alright, so please file manager goes lightning mapper hide. Alright, so it made me lose my train of thought. I'm going to pencil in something here. Alright, so let's say this is your forecast path. Here's your center of the storm, and then your forecast cone does this number. The further you get away from the center, the wider the forecast cone. All right. East side, you can get a storm, especially a tropical depression or tropical storm that is undergoing the effects of some shear, and it will be basically an elongated type system. And as this thing makes landfall, and let's say it gets to here in this area, let's say Macomb-Hattiesburg area. This is a hypothetical situation, folks, for you just joining. So you're going to have a number of feeder bands inside of this thing, but what you're also going to have is a primary, all right, or an outlier, basically like an outrigger, okay? We've seen it time and time and time and time again. You'll see, I've seen Pensacola get 30, 35, 40 inches of rain because of these outlier feeder bands. And it just feeds in that deep tropical moisture. It rotates around, and then it busts everybody on the east side and along the path of the tropical cyclone as it works its way inland. All right? And surge, it depends not just on the strength of your storm, but its speed. You can get a slow-moving tropical storm, and depending on where it's coming ashore at and where it's at in the Gulf, it's going to pile that water up, and it's going straight in Lake Borgne, Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, mouth of the Mississippi River. It's going to slow the drainage of the Amite rivers, these rivers along the North Shore parishes, and the Mississippi River as well, and the Atchafalaya. And that's going to contribute to flooding. All right, that's your coastal flooding. So you'll see coastal flood watches, coastal flood advisories, coastal flood warnings and watches go into effect, in addition to your tropical storm watches and warnings, and God forbid, hurricane watches and warnings. I know I'm going kind of fast, but hey, the thing with YouTube and these videos, the same as on the other platform that doesn't like to pay people, you can go back and rewatch them at your leisure, okay? Got a lot of information to cover. I want to try and get through it as quick as possible. Now, we've been fortunate since 2020. Every storm we've had has been fast movers or medium fast movers. Ida, she slowed down. Not to a crawl, but she was at a moderate pace, and she turned when she come in, then she turned and then went back north before ejecting to the northeast. That caused a lot of issues for New Orleans Metro. And over here, that's all marshy area. Plenty of water that's boiling hot, just waiting to be used by the tropical cyclone. So folks on the coast need to understand and pay attention to what these things are doing. Don't just look at a graphic forecast and say, oh, well, it's not that strong of a system. 60, 70 mile per hour winds, we can deal with that. No, the question you need to answer yourself is how fast that storm is moving, what's its projected speed as it gets close to the shore. And I can tell you, sea surface temperatures right now, they are pretty high. There's your current sea surface temperatures right now along the coast. I got buoy and ship observations on there as well. But as we look out, I'm going to show you some other graphics as well. You're seeing 90 and upper 80s in a lot of places. Now out here in the Caribbean, this is stuff we'd see normally in July. late June and July, these sea surface temperatures. Now, we've got some anomalies for sure, all right, with some upper 70s. That's still sufficient to maintain tropical storm strength. But the overall projection is, as we continue to move forward, the way the shelf along the Gulf Coast is set up, there's not going to be anything to cause upwelling and mix that water and cool it down. And as these storms start to approach that shallower water, it's nothing but a high octane fuel for them to feed off of. And they're going to RI like crazy as they, if there's no shear, that's a wrap. You're going to see some major RI in the last 12 to 18 hours before landfall. And by then, if you stayed, you're in trouble. Just because something may be this far out here in the Gulf, and let's say it's just a weak tropical storm, say 60 mile per hour max sustained winds, gust around 75 or 80. I don't care what the suits say. We've seen it time and time again. RI. But we got some warm water eddies out here. And these things will feed off of these warm water eddies and suck in that hot, moist air and water vapor. They're going to explode, especially this year. We're basically in uncharted territory right now with everything. And let me turn that off. No, don't spam the emojis. Hold on just a second. So understand, when you're making a decision, when we come under the cone of error and we have a threat for a landfall in Louisiana, more often than not, you'll see that cone excuse my drawing with a mouse, but it is what it is. So you see the forecast track and then the cone of error itself. You'll see these initially but I guarantee you, as time moves forward, that cone of error is going to shift west. It never fails. The forecasting is getting better. But hurricanes are extremely unpredictable, and they don't do what the forecasters say they're going to do. They don't. Mother Nature doesn't listen to meteorologists. She does what she wants regardless. And this is why I say don't get a false sense of security because you see the Florida Panhandle in the cone of error. Anything that comes in the Gulf, you pay attention. Let's take Ida for an example, okay? You know, she was forecast to do something like this. We all thought it. I got blasted and said people were cussing me and telling me I busted and that I was a POS and all this and that I don't know what I'm talking about. Hey, even the best of the best got screwed and got busted on the forecast. What did she do? Took advantage of a weakness and a trough that ejected, and she come right up and she nailed southeast Louisiana. That just goes to show you, we don't know it all, especially not the suits with doctorates and multiple PhDs. All right. So, you know, it's just one of those things where you've got to pay attention. For you new folks, this isn't hype. This is real life. Don't listen to the idiot neighbors of yours that say, oh, with tropical storm, we're going to be all right. Know if you're in a floodplain. Know if you're prone to flooding. And as these things come in, if they're slow movers, you can see 10, 15, 20, 25 inches of rain. And then we've got another August 2016 on our hands. Real talk, people. I kid you not. You know, thankfully we've been lucky, you know, that we've had fast movers. Now, I've looked at some of the long range climatology, and most of the summer we're projected to have a big ridge just like last summer. All right? Everything rotates clockwise around that ridge. Low pressure rotates counterclockwise. What's this thing going to do? South of that ridge, it's going straight west. Or it may come up and catch trade winds as they're moving northwest underneath the ridge, out away from it. All right? Because more than likely you're going to have the Bermuda High out here, and you've got a weakness there out of the Bahamas. So that would put Florida and potentially the East Coast more at risk than the Gulf. But any shift of the ridge east or west, that would allow a weakness between a trough between the ridges. It would take advantage of that, and that's where it would go if it's close enough. If it's far enough away, this is going to keep on booking it off to the west. Also, inland flash flooding, tornadoes. The winds, yes, you're going to have some strong winds depending on the speed of a landfalling tropical cyclone. Cyclone is the term used for all of them. Whether it's a depression, storm, or hurricane, it's a tropical cyclone. All right? Slow movers will weaken the further north they get. You're still going to likely see, you know, you get up here, you know, in these areas up here, you know, tropical storm force winds, maybe moderate tropical storm force gusts. But the main issue as it gets inland is the amount of rain you're going to see. And I've always said this before. Let's take this as a track, all right, of a landfalling cyclone. All right. Everybody along, let's say 50 miles to the west, and you can go out several hundred miles to the east, you're going to be prone to copious amounts of rainfall. And I've said this time and again, if you evacuate from the coastal areas, yes, you want to go north initially. Stay off of the interstates. Hit the back roads. Watch the speed traps. Most of these little towns, we all know where they're at. They have their little speed traps. Not supposed to, but they have them. And you make your way north away from the coast, and then you turn west or northwest, and make sure you're at least 100 miles, minimum 75 miles, away from that cone of error. Never go east. I don't care which direction, northeast, east, or southeast. Well, you go southeast, you're going out in the Gulf, and then you're in trouble. Your fish bait. So never evacuate to the east. I don't care what city, town you want to go to. You want to get stuck in major flash flooding and major river flooding, hey, be my guest. You want to be safe and keep your family out of harm's way, you go northwest and west. It's as simple as that. If we get something going in to Texas, that puts us well into the east side. And then what we're going to have to look for is where that outlier feeder band sets up at. And as long as it continues north, that feeder band's not going to move left or right or east or west, if you will. It's going to stay where it's at. And all that rain is going to keep wrapping around and sucking up all that hot moisture out of the Gulf. And then we've got another problem. In addition to along into the east side of the track of the cyclone. That's why I always say you pay attention. Go to your trusted sources for weather. Watch the forecast. Reason I tell you this, and you're not going to see any of the suits tell you none of this stuff. I'm telling you because it's good common sense. And it's proven good common sense. All right? Speak from experience. I can't tell you any better than that. All right, now, what we're going to do, this is another thing you're going to see this year. We all seen the rainfall projections, but now they're going to add in some of these numbers. And I'm going to post these up on the Facebook page. This way you can download these graphics and you can keep them handy. All right. As far as you've got inches and millimeters for you foreigners out there that use the metric system, or even the American folks that use the metric system. There you go. All right. God forbid we get 750 millimeters or more. So, with that said, even if it's a weak tropical storm, if it's moving fairly quickly, the less rain we get. But we're still going to have a good bit of rain. But power outages. We just seen what this second derecho did that came through. First one sucker punched us. And then the second derecho that came through That was a knockout blow. We still got people without power. Got a guy just died in Walker because power lines were down, still down. All right, so that just shows Entergy is completely not ready for bad weather. I hate to say that. They can come after me, say what they want. Hey, prove me wrong. We're paying all this money, and yet here we are. Here's your names for this year. These are the primaries. Not, they've got a set of backup names as well, but these are your primary names. We've seen some of these names before. Some of them we remember well. Isaac. Sure, everybody remembers Isaac in 2012. And look at Captain Kirk. That's the one that's going to be bad. My spidey sense tells me Kirk is going to be the one I have to watch. Isaac, yeah, I don't know. If we're seeing Ernesto, Beryl, Alberto, Helene, Isaac, those are the ones that I remember that directly affected us. Ernesto, just off the top of my head. And so the outlook from NOAA, I don't have the averages on here. I'm not going to go get them, but you can go to National Weather Service New Orleans page in Lake Charles. They have it on theirs. It shows you the graph with the averages and all that. This is the highest forecast that they've ever done. Now, this isn't talking about landfalling storms. This is all storms combined. 17 to 25 storms. Probably 20, 22, maybe 23. Either stay out to sea or they go somewhere else other than the continental U.S. mainland. Let's hope that. Hell, just one. All it takes is one to ruin thousands of lives. So it doesn't matter if there was only 5 named storms that are in the forecast and one hurricane and one major hurricane forecast. Remember, all it takes is one. Evacuation plan. You've seen these signs in various locations on the roads down here. You need to find out if you would need to evacuate depending on where the storm's projected to make landfall. Now, they say don't travel hundreds of miles, only far enough away from the evacuation area. I'm going to contradict that a little bit, okay? When I say have multiple plans in place, this is one of the reasons I say that. Because that cone of error can change. That forecast track can change. You want to be at least 50 miles away from that cone of error on the left side of it, or the west side, if you will. All right. And now they even say it here: plan your evacuation route, have an alternate route. You can go to Google Maps or Bing or whatever you use and pick you out a route to Lake Charles. As your primary. Just to start. All right. Let's just say for a landfalling hurricane or tropical storm that would affect Lafayette, Baton Rouge areas. Now, if you're in Lake Charles, that's a different story. You still want to go west. You can go ahead on go to Houston or Conroe, somewhere over there, and just hang out. All right. Always have a backup plan in the event that that hurricane or cyclone tracks further west. If you have friends or family that are west of here, let them know, hey, we might be coming. Or start checking hotels. You want to check in advance because people are going to start booking rooms like crazy. When the evacuation order is given, go. In fact, you should probably already be gone. Don't wait, because by the time they give a mandatory evacuation, big cities, New Orleans, Lafayette, Lake Charles, you are going to have a very difficult time in bumper to bumper traffic. Time is not on your side with an approaching tropical system. Bug out before if there's a voluntary evacuation, that's when you need to go. Once you have a plan, number 4, communicate that plan with someone that's not in the storm's path so they know which route you're going to take. In the event something happens, they can send search and rescue to come look for you. Your pets. Don't leave your pets behind, people. Period. I hate people. And I know it's not, you're not supposed to hate, but I hate people that don't care about their pets and leave them to die out there. A lot of hotels and motels will take pets if you're evacuating. Even if you're not evacuating, call around. You don't want somebody to chain you up to a tree or a porch and leave you there with a 10-foot storm surge projected and you drowned. Think about your pets. That is something that I will absolutely fight somebody over. Period. All right, so we've already went over this here, hurricane hazard risks. Storm surge, that's the water pushed on shore by the tropical system. It causes the most damage of any hurricane hazards. All right. Winds from a hurricane can top 200 miles per hour and cause massive damage to buildings in its path. Inland flooding caused by heavy rain damages homes and can wash out roadways well away from the coast. We've covered that. Tornadoes, east side, along and on the east side of the path of that hurricane. Now, they're not typically long-lived, but they can cause plenty of damage. And on this channel, if you go into the videos, I think you filter it by date and go all the way to the bottom. It's one of the first ones I put on here. It's Hurricane Gustav. Had a tornado touchdown not just to the east of my parents, where they lived at, well, my mom and stepdad, where they lived at there off of Pete's Highway in Denham. And under the carport, the way the direction of the wind, we were sheltered. So I'm sitting out there filming with my little camera, and I see this big wedge just starting to drop down to the ground. And it got right down, I mean, just at the trees, and it come racing over, and it took the tops of those trees and laid them down right there in the front yard and the driveway. They spin up real quick, but they don't last very long. And what you're going to wind up probably seeing is, and they did this in 2020, these entire feeder bands, as they're onshore, they'll be tornado warned. Because by the time they would issue a warning anyways, it's already come and gone. Now you see it, now you don't. They're just that fast. So these inside feeder bands are going to be tornado warned constantly. Now, after the hurricane, rip currents and rough seas are still common both before and after a hurricane. You don't want to get out there and go swimming or surfing. If you don't know what a rip current looks like, I suggest you do some research. Google it. That's what Google's there for. Same with Bing. James Spann, the GOAT, the legend over in Alabama and Birmingham, he posts stuff on it. He just posted one recently. Somebody else did too. Somebody shot from the, I don't know, they were like 6, 7, 8 floors up in a condo over there, Gulf Shores or Orange Beach, somewhere over there. And you can see a number of rip currents. What you wind up seeing, you'll see the waves come in, and then you see a relatively calm patch. That's a rip current. Don't get out in that, especially if you're not a strong swimmer. Even so, strong swimmers, that top condition football player just died, what, last year or year before last? It's called common sense. All right, about your home. Keep trees around your home trimmed. That'll prevent storm damage and broken branches. Now, if you got 50-foot trees that are, just 30 foot away from your home, well, have your chainsaws ready. Have proper materials in advance to board up your windows to protect them from flying debris. Loose outdoor items such as patio furniture, etc., etc., they're going to become airborne, and they'll cause damage to your home. If they get slung down the road, they hit somebody else's house, that's more damage. Secure all doors on your property, and remember that a garage door is usually the most vulnerable. So I don't know how you go about securing a garage door, but I would check in on that, talk with people, There's professionals that can help you with that. On top of that, move your car inside your garage or to another secure location. Your car is your life. Trust me, I know. I can't drive no more because of my health and my vision. Doctor's orders. So I know what it's like not having to have one and doing without. So things to know about continued. Where to get your hurricane info. Television. Tune into your trusted local news source. Phone. Access mobile.weather.gov on your mobile phone and get wireless emergency alerts. Radios. Receive forecast information and news on your NOAA weather radio. Social media. Stay in touch with friends and family and receive updates from your trusted sources of information. Computer. Access information from weather.gov, ready.gov, and flash.org. I don't have flash.org listed in the quick link section of my website, but tomorrow it will be up there. That's concerning flash flooding. Insurance. Check your insurance policies well ahead of the storm to see what's covered and what isn't covered. Make sure you have flood insurance. Flooding is the leading cause of damage from tropical storms. Visit floodsmart.gov to learn about your flood risk and flood insurance options for your area. Prepare your home and vehicles according to your specific insurance policies to ensure damages are covered. Very important. Know where your insurance documents and contact information are located. Take them with you if you evacuate. Your important documents. I'm going to say this again. Go get you a roll of duct tape, a couple of boxes of the big 2-gallon Ziploc bags, a couple of boxes of a gallon, a couple of boxes of quart size. You put your papers in those, and then you put them, you write on what's in those Ziplocs, and then you don't overstuff, but you put what you can inside the 2-gallon Ziplocs and seal them suckers up. This way you've got your stuff in your primary Ziploc, and then they go in that 2-gallon Ziploc bag. Trust me, it works. Where are we at as far as our daily sea surface temperatures for the North Atlantic? All right, well, here we are. See this black line? That's 2024. Over here on the left side is your temperatures in Celsius. Down here at the bottom of the graph is your month. This orange line or brown line, whatever you want to call it, depends on what your color vision is, that's last year. Then you see this first dashed line. 2022 was underneath that dashed line. So with the exception of the end of April and the beginning of May this month, we were just under last year's sea surface temperature index, but now we're well above it. Now, how far do we continue to climb above last year's sea surface temperatures at that time of year? Who knows? Only time will tell. But like I said, all these media outlets You know the drill with them. It's clickbait. They got to get them click, 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 clicks on their websites. They got to get that ad revenue. They're making money off you, man, and they're hyping the hell out of this. It is what it is. That's why a lot of them don't like me. Now, as of yesterday, you see surface temperature anomalies. You look down here in the Bay of Campeche, it's smoking. Down here off of Brownsville, southeast Texas, that's a big hot spot. It's 1 to 2.5 degrees warmer than average. And then you got the Gulf Stream. You can clearly see that going up the East Coast, and then well offshore, especially out here where our little thing is at right now. If it develops, it's going to be a subtropical cold core system, not a warm core. But just to get just so you can get your bearings here. Here's Louisiana. You see my cursor right here. You should be able to see it. You see Florida. And here's Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Leeward Windward Islands, and Cape Verdes, and the west coast of Africa. Now, again, 1 to 2.5 degrees warmer than average. But then you look up here at Lake Michigan, and look at that. Lake Michigan's hella warm. So, it's not as bad as what it could be. All right? It can get bad. So there's a lot more that I could go into, but the overall theme of this is to cover all the information that I just went through. And the main thing, I'm going to bring you back to this now. And we're going to zoom in on this. Because up until last year, when you see the watches and warnings issued by the National Hurricane Center, you see how the coast of Cuba is just outlined in the blue for a tropical storm. What is that? That's a hurricane. Yeah, it's a tropical storm warning. All right. Let me see where this thing is at here. There we go. Trying to make this adjustable, but let's zoom it in again. Well, it won't let me do that. But what I wanted to point out is, again, tropical storm warnings and hurricane warnings, tropical storm watches, or inland tropical storm watches and inland tropical hurricane watches and warnings, they're going to be all color shaded now. And on the outside of that cone of error, they're going to be shaded in as well. So you won't just have coastal areas and people saying, oh, well, it's just a coastal thing. That's not going to affect us. We're 50 miles inland. Well, that's always given people a false sense of security and made them complacent. And many have died because of it. So a lot of people are going to be confused at first, but those of you who are watching, now you understand what these new graphics look like and what they mean. And all you have to do is at the bottom of the graphic, you'll see the legend, the color codes, what each color means. And it's not a mistake that they've got hurricane and tropical storm warnings outside of the cone of error. They've done that on purpose now because of the extreme hazards well away from the center of circulation. Everybody focused on that center of circulation in that track. So for you new people, understand a hurricane is not like a tornado where it affects, a path of, say, a few hundred feet to a mile wide. We're talking literally hundreds of miles, okay? Famous, well-known storm chaser, it goes by the name of Reed Timmer. He always says never stop chasing. I always say never stop learning. Knowledge is power, knowledge is life. So remember, a hurricane is not a tornado, and a tornado is not a hurricane. Yes, they're both cyclonic, but there's a huge difference. So let me jump on here and look at the chat here. Alrighty, so I guess with that said, of course in YouTube Studio, everything's froze up. It says no data, but yet here we are, we're live. So I don't know. Guess YouTube's glitching. I've got it all set up correctly because you're watching. So I don't know what's going on with YouTube, but anyhow, we're live. I'm gonna go ahead and end this here. We've been on here about an hour. That's long enough. You've gotten the information that I wanted you to have to better protect yourself and your property. And I'm going to keep trying to figure out going live on YouTube, set on my end, my dashboard isn't in stupid mode where I can't see anything. I'm actually looking at everything through OBS, the software that I use to stream. So with that said, like, share the stream. There's a little bell icon. Tap that, hit all notifications, and subscribe to the channel. Subscribing on here is free. Right now, we need 4,000 total hours watched. I've only got about, up until this video, I had like 360 something hours watched. So make sure you share the stream. I'll share it to the Facebook pages. They can go back and watch it at their leisure as well. And with that, everybody have a good weekend, good Friday, rest of your Friday. And for now, all the severe weather is basically staying north of us, which is typical for summertime. they're going to get nailed continuously, day after day after day after day and day after day. It's an ungodly, crazy spring severe weather season. We saw more than our share of it, but there's some that are just continuing to get pounded every single day. So um, for us down here, hurricane season is our focus now. So with that said, have a good evening. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll talk to everybody again.